The images of young migrants kept in pens on American soil would be enough to make most politicians think twice about their approach to immigration. But President Trump is digging in.
The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. It won't be. You look at what's happening in Europe, you look at what's happening in other places, we can't allow that to happen to the United States, not on my watch.
Predictably, that show of defiance just made the administration's problem worse. And a little after 5 p.m., they trotted out the Secretary of Homeland Security to try to deflect the issue to Congress.
So I want to provide you an update on the illegal immigration crisis on our southern border.
The so-called zero-tolerance policy is supposed to apply to people who cross the border illegally. But one of the questions Secretary Nielsen got was how it's affecting people who cross legally, by asking for asylum at an official port of entry.
DHS is not separating families legitimately seeking asylum at ports of entry.
That late-in-the-day cleanup attempt by Secretary Nielsen indicates the administration is hearing the same reports that I am here in El Paso, that zero tolerance is intersecting with the asylum system, which is supposed to be separate. Asylum seekers are doing what the Trump administration asked them to do, presenting themselves at a port of entry and claiming a credible fear of returning to their home country. Customs and Border Protection isn't officially denying asylum seekers entry to the U.S., but they are telling people that the detention centers where asylum seekers are being held while their claims are processed are full. According to aid workers, people can spend days waiting to make an asylum claim, and in some cases, adults accompanying minors making an asylum claim can even be charged with a crime.
One of the great concerns now is that we are beginning to hear reports of some families who crossed through the port of entry that were separated and prosecuted criminally. And that's of tremendous concern to us because it's now no longer individuals who cross illegally, but now even individuals that present at a port of entry. And so this is something that we want to follow very, very carefully.
What you're saying happened in this case was somebody did what they were supposed to do in terms of presenting themselves at a port of entry with an asylum claim. At some point, somehow, this person was charged criminally and separated from her child.
Correct.
And the charge was illegal entry.
Correct.
Customs and Border Protection referred us to Secretary Nielsen's remarks today. But even before the families are allowed to make their asylum claim, Garcia says some have run into problems. On Friday, Garcia helped 5 families make asylum claims, but he says 2 were turned away and joined a growing group of asylum seekers crowding the port of entry. Can you walk me through, again, these are signs that you all are helping folks make?
Correct. For people that are trying to present at a port of entry to establish the categorical claim, I am afraid and I'm asking for asylum. So there can be no question on the part of a CBP officer that in fact is what they're facing in the person of this mom with her children or this dad with his children.
And the kind of things you're saying is where you're from, that what your name is, what your child's name is, and your reason essentially.
Correct. Why it is that I'm here. Even if the sign isn't helpful, what we're trying to do is document the fact that even individuals that clearly, categorically have expressed fear and are asking for asylum are being turned away. Even though CBP officers will say, we're not denying. In effect, when you go to the international line and you ask for asylum, if you are turned away, you have been turned down. Okay? And I think that needs to be clear.
And is that legal?
It is not legal. Our understanding, according to the law, is that when an individual presents at the boundary line and they ask for asylum, they express fear and ask for asylum, that CBP is then obligated to process them and to place them in the immigration process whereby that asylum claim can be evaluated and adjudicated.
What do the officers say, at least in your experience?
Well, it's a pretty consistent message, and it's a very interesting message. Officers will say, we don't have space. Our processing facility at the port, we're full, we don't have space. And then there's the use of the word humane. And they're very good about saying we are not denying anyone the opportunity. We're just saying not now.
Are you seeing more people trying to seek asylum since the zero tolerance policy came into effect?
No, it's enforcement. It hasn't really had that big of an impact on why people are leaving El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and what it is that they speak about when they arrive. What the zero tolerance is doing is it's creating incredible fear, because for them, the issue is they want to take my children away.